As the Lakers continue to get ready for the playoffs, time to get back in the win column after a couple losses. Dwight Howard and the Bigs should get more minutes against a more traditional opponent. Lakers will try and even their record on the NBA campus in Orlando. They'll take on the Indiana Pacers, who could finish between 4th and 6th in the East. Tip-off is at 3 o'clock right here on Spectrum Sportsnet. Hello and welcome. Access Sportsnet Lakers, brought to you by your Southern California Toyota dealers. Chris McGee, Big Game James Worthy, Tough Juice, Karan Butler. We got Allie Clifton over there. We got Brez calling in at home. Trudell, right around the corner. We're ready. A rare 2 o'clock show on a Saturday. And we do have some good news for the Purple and Gold. After sitting out the last game with a sore groin, LeBron James will play along with Anthony Davis. And here's a look at how the Lakers duo has performed in the restart. LeBron scoring 19 per game on just 42% from the field. Assists are down with the Lakers' poor shooting, 6.3 a game and 10 rebounds. Anthony Davis, he's had 2 monster games versus the Clippers and Jazz, but his numbers down as well, 23 points per game and 9 rebounds. I want to talk LeBron James, guys. Both will play. He missed the Rockets game due to that sore groin. What side of the conversation are you on with LeBron James, Karan? Rest LeBron, totally get him ready for the playoffs, or play him, get him in his rhythm, but watch his minutes?
I'm on the side of limited minutes because you want to play, because the rest, you've been resting since literally March.
Yeah.
I know he's not been resting because he's still, trying to stay in the best condition, in which he has been, and you can tell by his physique. But, basketball rhythm is different. And I think it's very important that, he get back out there, which he has, and keep that momentum. So sitting out last game to the groin, coming back tonight would be huge for the Purple and Gold going forward.
For a guy like LeBron, 17 years, 35 years old, James, these last 3 games, what do you think the goal is for him?
The goal is to do exactly what Karan said, and while he's doing that, he's going to, expand his leadership. He's set out a couple, 1 or 2 games, I can't remember, I think, but he's seeing what's going on. They haven't performed up to their capabilities. So he needs some quality minutes. Like Karan said, they've already had enough time off, and we were talking in the last game, that could be a jolt. Having a lot of time off and then all of a sudden trying to get back into it. So yeah, he's got to keep, some stamina up while he's surveying the team, getting the 3. He's got to be responsible for getting them to shoot 3s better, monitoring what they need, and also verbally, telling them what they need to do.
Frank Vogel agrees with you guys. We showed a backstage piece earlier this week, and it was Frank Vogel talking to the team when they got to Orlando. He was talking about the goals, and he said, we want to compete, we want to get ready for the playoffs, but we want to do it smart. Yeah. We want to do it watching everyone's minutes. You want to build momentum, even in games that don't matter when it comes to the standings, because you want to feel good going into the playoffs, but it's also hard, Karan, to create that sense of urgency when it's just not there. These aren't do-or-die games.
Yeah, you know what? But the urgency comes from the chemistry component. Because now you got JR and now you got Dion Waiters. So those things are extremely important in this climate right now. So adding those guys to the mix, and look, no Bradley. Who's going to be that person on the perimeter, or are we going to have to do it as, or by committee rather, to stop guys and to shrink the floor and take away real estate in that component? So look, I think it's been great. Kyle Kuzma's knocking down shots as collectives. They have not been great from the perimeter. So it's good to have that type of momentum going into the playoffs.
I want to show you some numbers, Big Game, because the biggest issue and the biggest story surrounding this team, it's not that you're worried about LeBron and AD, because you're not. It's more the shooting woes. They've been under 40%, Big Game, 3 times out of the 5 games. They were only once in the first 63 games. And from 3, it's downright awful, right? 37 for 157, just 23%. So, Big Game, whether these games have meaning or not, that absolutely has to change.
Yeah, these games have meaning for specifically what you just showed. And they can't wait to the first game of the real playoffs and then all of a sudden think it's going to change. There's some work to be done, and another component, you talk about, a neutral site, there's not an advantage for either team. But remember this, everybody wants to kick the Lakers' butt, okay? Yeah. And that's another thing, even though they're at a neutral site, they have to be concerned about. Toronto, Clippers, everybody's talking about Portland now, slipping into that 8th spot. So they got to be aware of what's coming at them. You know, it's a hurricane coming. You can prepare for it, and you can beat it if you know it's coming. So that's what these games are critical for. And the leadership of LeBron, getting everybody involved, get that tenacity, that killer instinct, and go forward with that.
Tough juice, 7 for 56. That's what they are in the last 2 games from 3. That's 12%. That's 7 combined three-pointers made in a 2-game span. It's the lowest of any team all year. That's got to change today.
Yeah, that's extremely important, and I think that's why LeBron is inserting himself back into the lineup, and everyone is going to be, you know, on point, you know, from a perimeter standpoint, dialed in to, look, we have to make shots. Penetration is going to be there. They're going to drive and penetrate and take the shots that's given, and that's winning basketball right there.
All right, the Lakers and the Indiana Pacers will tip it off at 3 o'clock right here on Spectrum Sportsnet. For the latest on the purple and gold, let's check in with Lakers reporter Mike Trudell, just down the hall, but it looks beautiful there.
My guy.
Yeah, the weather's nice in here too, Geeter. It is nice to see you guys, and of course we're going to get to Frank Vogel in a second. Now, what you're talking about with the offense is interesting because it's not just about a lack of effort or anything, since they are playing really well on the defensive end of the floor. In fact, 4th in defensive efficiency for all teams in the bubble. It's just that the offense hasn't come around. So not purely effort, right? You have to bring the effort to play defense that well. We're going to get into that a little bit with Frank Vogel, but not before, Geeter, we go over the who's in, who's out thing that seems to be so necessary as a lot of guys showed up with minor injuries on the injury report. So here's Frank Vogel on that.
Yep, everybody's available except for Danny Green, who is not going to play with a sore right hip, and Alex Caruso will start in his place.
All right, Frank, don't want to get into the whole, you know, offense in the bubble type thing. So just overall, what have you seen on tape as you've looked at the games, the last couple, and what are you looking to have change and evolve in these last 3 games starting tonight?
Well, we're doing some really good things defensively. You know, I think we're one of the best rated defenses in the bubble since we restarted. I'm happy with what we're doing there. We have to continue, what we're doing on that end of the floor. Offensively, both have to improve execution, shot quality, and, you know, obviously we have to shoot better when we do get clean looks. So, just need to improve our rhythm there.
All right, let's go to Dave.
Frank, curious if you got a chance to catch the end of the Blazers-Clippers game in your prep for this one. And obviously, I know that you guys have your own things you're concentrating on, but are you starting to pay more attention to the race for 8th in the West?
Yeah, I was told about the ending of that game. I didn't see it. My game days, I don't really watch any other games, but on my off days, you know, I watch a lot of other games, you know, around the league, whether it's in teams we may potentially see or just other teams in general, you know, Boston, Toronto, et cetera, last night. So, yeah, I just heard about that game. I didn't see it. And, you know, we're still a few days away from it being clear in terms of it being narrowed down to where potential opponents could be. So I haven't spent a lot of thought with that.
All right, so if you're wondering what Vogel is referring to there in the question that ESPN's Dave McMahon asked, so the Clippers didn't play Kawhi. That made some sense, though, because they're on a back-to-back. But Paul George sat down the stretch. They pulled him and a couple of other starters out. The Nuggets did the same thing against Portland the previous game, so that's been some chatter there around NBA circles, Geeter, as you alluded to earlier. But Frank is just not going to really worry about that, can only control what they're going to control in that instance. And in this case, the Clippers ended up winning anyway. Rodney McGruder hit a 3, and then Lillard missed 2 free throws. So it was interesting how that all played out, but Vogel's not going to weigh in on that at this point.
Yeah, if you want to have some fun, though, in commercials, Mike, go on Twitter and check out what Dame's saying and Beverly and Paul George. It's a real good time. Real good time. Boy, do I love Dame. All right, thanks, Mike. Appreciate that. Danny Green is out in the bubble 5 games. He's played just under 23 minutes. Not shooting the ball well from 3, just 20%, averaging 6.6 points per game. He's out tonight with a sore right hip. Lakers and Pacers coming up here on Spectrum Sports, and that as LeBron gets ready. He still has a minute to say hi to Damian Lillard, whose Blazers suffered a tough loss earlier this afternoon. They still could meet up in the playoffs. And coming up, we know Kyle Kuzma can score in bunches, but it's his increased attention on the defensive end that has us excited. We'll discuss that more next.
Access Sportsnet Lakers is brought to you in part by Wingstop, the official wings